All right, I'm going to get started. I don't want to hold anyone up. It's a 30-minute session. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. Move this out the way. Okay. So my name is Charlene St. John, and I'm a media specialist at Cherokee Lane Elementary School. We'll see as we're going along. My presentation title is The Power of Integrating SEL, Social and Emotional Learning, and Computational Thinking in the Elementary School Library. I know we have librarians from all over the place that have joined this particular conference. And so my view set is on the school library in elementary school libraries specifically. So make sure. Okay. So have a quick question you can answer in the chat if you want to. And this is just a quick question about why do you think I'm dressed like that? So this was one of the events we had at the school and this past school year. And just a quick question of why do you think I would be dressed like that? You can answer in the chat. You can open up your mic. It's a small group. If anybody picked up in the chat. I've got an answer here. Thank you, Carolyn. Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and just reveal the answer. It's not that big of a deal. We had Asia Pacific Month and made a big, huge deal about going overboard with, and I wouldn't say overboard, but I wanted to make a big event out of it because my school is mostly Latino. But we have a small population of Asian children. And I wanted to make sure that I represented them as best as I could. So I found out from which country everyone was from, and I tried to get an attire that matched that particular country. So there I'm wearing a sari. I brought a dress from the Philippines. I bought a Japanese kimono. I also wore a hapuk dress from South Korea, from Korea, and and I dressed up each day in a different outfit during the whole entire month of our program that we did a week's celebration. It was for the whole month, but for that 1 week, I made sure I wore a different outfit. So that's just one of the ways that I connect. That's the way I come into the classroom when the students first start the year out. I try to make sure that I connect with them. They know me, I know them, and I try to make sure that I set that type of culture in my room so that this way, when it's time for learning, no matter what I'm teaching, which is mostly teaching library skills and research and connecting those things with computer science. I also put that in there as well, computational thinking, and mix it all together. So if you see here on the other side, I have some things here where I was having the kids use algorithms to decompose words into letters and then create an algorithm with little red arrows. This is kindergarten. To create the words. And they got that from a story that they were reading, that I was reading to them called My Pet Bird. So I mixed all those together. And you can imagine how busy the classroom would actually be. So I'm gonna go on. So social emotional learning, for those who do not know, it's a big buzzword out there now, but it really is just what I think of it is just a way of how you connect with your students to make them realize that they're a person, you're a person, and that we can connect on that level, and that they're important and that they matter. And so you make them, they're aware. So the 5 pillars are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationships, and decision-making. So you want to model that in the classroom so that students feel well enough to become aware of their own emotional, the way they emote. And you want to make sure they are able to manage those emotions and know how to properly engage with other people depending on how they feel, and then socially aware of what the things in their neighborhood and their community, and then their relationships between each other and other classmates and their teachers and principals and so forth, and then making responsible decisions based upon the situation and the context of where they are. Right, and so I just said that. So social emotional learning, culturally responsive teaching, if you mix those two together, they foster an environment that builds self-esteem and promotes inclusion. So my students, like I said, most of my school is Latino. However, we have kids from Africa, we have kids from Asia. And so we want everyone to feel included. And when they come into my classroom and into the school, we make this as a school whole. And when they come into the library, there's representation and everyone feels included in the library. All right, computational thinking. So to find out what more to dig into that, computational thinking is a building block or a way of thinking and problem solving. And when I integrate that particular way of teaching and problem solving into my library lessons for pre-K through 5, because that's the grade level that I'm on. And my goal is to build a foundation of computational thinking, the way of solving problems, so that students, when they get to the upper grades, if they decide they wanted to go to computer science, they have the foundation for problem solving, or whatever career strand they decide to go into between middle school, high school, and then further on into college and career. That will help them make a decision. So they know that there's more out there than just the jobs you normally hear, lawyer, doctor. There's many other jobs they can do, teacher. So just to give them options so that they don't opt out of let's say computer science, because they may think it's all about coding, and it's not. Some people think that's the only thing that's involved in computer science. And a lot of it is just being able to problem solve and be a problem solver. And we all do it as adults. We do a lot of that problem solving, and computational thinking has to do, algorithms, decomposition, abstraction, and logic, evaluation. These are all skills that we use in our everyday life. Any questions so far? I want to talk over anybody. You can put it in the chat. We'll stop along the way. All right. When students feel and understand that they matter, engaging in learning is automatically happens. In the classroom, in the library, I know some people, when they were like, how do you connect that to the real library? And one of the things that I asked about was in the public library and then in the school library, the way that I see, especially my school, Cherokee, we're a community school. So we don't only just deal with our students, we also deal with the parents that come along with the students that bring them to school. So it's a community school. So we're constantly doing things like, book fairs, and we're always reaching out to the community, inviting them in for special programs like the Asia Pacific Month program and the Black History program. And then and that all has to do with reading and exchanging books and information. And we have English classes, and we have special medical services that we pull parents into our school. They can come and get dentistry done and get eye exams. And this is all about being a community school, and that ties together. And I work along with my community liaison, and her name is Jesrith Mariskal, and she works along with us to pull community partners into our school, along with public libraries, so we can all work together to meet the needs of our community that we service, with specifically in our school in Hyattsville, on the borderline there of Adelphi and Maryland. So when you integrate these together, SEL, CT, literacy with books, the results are engaging experiences. All right, so here's some examples, and I can share the slides with you if you want to look at the examples of how I do this. So this, there's a book called Pig the Pug. It's a series, and so in one of the stories for kindergarten and first grade, sometimes you could push just a second. And what I did was I took a familiar story, broke it into pieces, decomposed it, and had the students sequence out the story. And so I'm not going to show you all these slides, just basically to show you what the students would see. And, so they learn about decomposition, they learn about evaluation, and they get a chance to sequence the story. So it goes into the reading, I read the story to them, and they get a chance to, once we decompose the story and mix all the pictures up, actually print the pictures out, laminate them. So basically totally pull the book apart, and the kids get to look at the pictures individually, study it, look at the vocabulary, and this is kindergarten, first grade. So more so, I'm reading it to them. They're looking at the pictures and see how they connect the story together by sequencing. If I was to move this up to second and third, of course, we will dig into the vocabulary and have them read it a little bit closer. So that's just one example. And then this was for letter recognition, again, for K1 and sometimes pre-K. So they can look at the words that are mainly focused in the story. So we're really digging into vocabulary when we do this. So I have them look at the words where look at the picture that connects to the word, and how do we, so they get a picture in their head of the word mend, and they see the little pig has it, he's on the mend at this point by the end of the story. So the story is still out of sorts, out of order. So they sequence it and they look at the different pictures. Let's go back. Let's go next part. So let's move up to a low grade level. So at the beginning of the school year, I've said for my older, so this is an example for the upper grade, mixing in that library, talking about going back to that identity and culture. So now the older kids, third, fourth, and fifth grade, and we had sixth grade last year. We just saw this is our first year without sixth grade. And so my first focus when they come into the library is to get them to, again, connect with their identity, connect with their culture and their learning style. I want them to know this and realize that that's important, and it's what they, who they are and how they learn and where they come from is important in how they're going to engage in the classroom, engage in the library, engage in the world. So I have them work together in teams to figure out logic puzzles. So it gets them up, it gets them working together. They all go to the smart board, figure things out together. And then we have a little discussion about how did it work together, who was leading, and talk about the differences and how they were trying to solve the puzzles. And then we get into this particular time, usually Hispanic Heritage Month is usually at the beginning of the school year. So I pull out a lot of Latinx different individuals, and I pull them out and I put out the books and things like that of different Latinx individuals. And then I also allow students, because that are not that are not from a Latin American country, I allow them as well to look up people that are famous or from their own culture, so that we can all do this particular project. And this one is to create a self. Now this is mixing SEL, and it's mixing in together that building that culture in the background, so that students can engage in the classroom and feel included. And so what they do is they create self-portraits. And this is an example of one of them. And they get a chance to draw their own face, and they split it in half, and they get a chance to say, this is who I am. And then they, on the other side, they color it in, and they dig a little bit more into who they are and write down things about themselves that they identify with, that explain who they are as a person. And so this is just one of the fun examples, and they get a chance to share out and discuss, and it's really fun for the students. And you can, I found this to work, you can work this all the way up to high school for this particular project, just to get the kids talking, and especially in when you first come into school, because you get to know who they are. And I also do one myself too, so they can see where I am and where I'm going. Okay. So if we synthesize this, if we have reading theme-based books and using algorithms for art projects, a Blossom Tree project is based on books. So I'm going to synthesize this for you now and see how it looks when you take books and CT and add that social and emotional piece through art project. And this is what I did during the Asia Pacific month, going back to that first picture. Now I'm tying it in towards the end of this presentation. So we have time for questions. And so what I do is I read a series of different books about the cherry blossom. And students get to read them too. So there's all types of books about cherry blossoms. We watch videos about it. Every year when the cherry blossoms come about in March and early spring, we have discussions about that. And we get a chance to talk about it and read about it. And then I have the students look at a picture. I'm showing you all the steps, but what I do is I have the students just look at a picture of an art project and have them decompose it and tell me what the pieces of the picture are, what is involved in making this particular art project. And then their job is to then write a list of the materials needed, which you hear: paper, brown wool, pink tissue paper, glue, whatever they come up with, and based on what they see. And then from there, I would have them write an algorithm, which is basically the instructions. And then we actually do this. And then before they do, they switch papers with another table. And then each table works on a different algorithm to put this cherry blossom tree together. and they have a lot of fun with that. So, what is my main point with all of that I do in the elementary school library? So, the importance of building trust and rapport with students so that learning becomes a part of the relationship. That is most important. If there is no relationship with your students, with your parishioners, not parishioners, with the patrons, excuse me, with the patrons that come into the library, especially if it's a public library. If you don't have build a relationship with the community, with the families, I know these parents, they know me. We have something called Class Dojo, so we're constantly communicating. Again, we come to different programs, so the families know me. My face is on Class Dojo all the time. I'm constantly communicating with parents. I see them every morning. I see us. I dismiss kids. I run after school programs, computer club, things like that. So I build relationship with the parents as well as with the children. And if you build that, parents feel included. Students realize that you are engaged with their parents and they feel like it's a part of their home, so they feel comfortable. And the learning and the services that I really find that can outreach not only to the child but to the child's family. And that's so important that you can help and provide services that are needed for the whole entire family. And that's what a community school does, which reminds me, when I've heard conversations about public libraries, that's the kind of thing you want to be able to serve the community. And we do that as a school. So in all of my classes, 41 to be exact, I see 41 classes within every 2 weeks. 41 classes, I must find out about students first. This is the beginning and the method through which relationships are built. I do this through art, books, and conversation. The students learn about me as well. I'm appropriately, because I know this is elementary school, I can't say everything. I'm an appropriately open book. As the year progresses, students become closer and are willing to share about themselves and their families. So keeping an SEL, social emotional learning, as a central focus of my teaching, I engage students in what they come to understand as a safe environment to express themselves. Also to discover what type of books they like to read. Moreover, to grow as individuals and as a school community. And that is my presentation. My name is Charlene St. John. I have some other activities in here that I can also put in the chat that gives you a forced copy if you want to. Let me come out of that mode so I can get it. And you can look at it. I'll put this in the chat for you. And I also so this is the unplugged forced copy. And then I can also give a copy of the slides. If you want to modify it and make it your own, and you want to refer back to it, feel free to do so. So now it's a question time. So if you have any questions for me, let me make sure this is properly shared. 1 second. Come on, computer. So make sure this is properly shared. So if you want to look at it, you can. You're welcome. I see that in the chat. I'm going to put the other one in the chat as well. All right. Yeah, it's proper. Okay, good. All right. I just want to make sure that what I'm sharing with you is a forced copy of the slides. So if you want to manipulate them, go back to some of my examples, use them, modify them as you need, depending on where you serve. I know I have 2 people in here, Jean and Susan. I don't know if you where are you from? Are you in public library or a school library? You can put in the chat or you can open up the mic and speak, either one. Research library, Susan. Oh, cool. Okay. And public library. So so what I was saying with like the community, does that connect with either one of you all? Oh, okay. All right, cool. So you either one of you all deal, I know you like said you deal with the public. So what I was speaking to as far as like the community, um how we deal as a community school, is does that speak to kind of what you do in the public library or even the research library, Susan? Yes. Oh, cool. I'm glad, Erica. Thank you. Yes, it is wonderful. So yeah, because we have to really try to connect with that community. I was trying to find ways that I would say I was telling when I was thinking of putting this together, and I would say, how is it like as a public library? And I was thinking because we're a community school, is that connects as well. Oh, thank you, Susan. Yeah, this is really good. Thank you so much, guys. We have about 9 minutes. If you have any other questions or anything like that, please feel free to put it in the chat. I'll wait it out. Um, did I stop sharing my screen? Okay, no, I didn't. Okay. I was trying to make sure I had all the information. Yeah, it's just regular Gmail. I just went from my other presentation to my Gmails. Okay. Thank you all so much for any questions for me, any resources you need, anything like that. I put the two things in the chat, and you can reach out. My email is there if you ever want any other things, especially if you have children that are the age that I work with in the library, or if any other resources that you possibly need that I can help with. I'm more than happy. Always willing to help and further along the education, especially of our littles. They need a lot of foundation before they move on.
So Charlene, would you say that your methods have they evolved like as you've been doing this, or
Yes, they have. So I started off with, because I had to learn the whole library thing because I didn't come from that background. I come from a high school background. It was really when I moved to Maryland, I went into elementary school, and then but I did have a lot of research because I worked with a lot of researching and helping kids do research papers and things like that. But yeah, I went from doing that and then going into the library. I started thinking about, well, what ways can I help students get into because we were moving further into they're constantly working on their computers. So in order for them to get into the database and to get into ebooks and things like that, students taking a long time to get into the computer. So that's where I started. So I started teaching the kids how to keyboard, and then from there it went into maker spaces, and then I went into computational thinking, and I mixed all of that with books. Everything was, my central focus was always books. And then from there, I would branch out into the different academic levels. And then from there, our school then became a community school, which then shifted my gear into more thinking about, okay, how do I connect with the families? And that's how it definitely evolved. It went from myself learning to focusing just on the library, then integrating computational thinking, and then now community. So that's basically how it evolved over time.
That's great. Thank you. Have you faced any challenges with your current programming? Like as you evolved, has any of it evolved because of challenges either with students or with things that didn't work, or things that are?
Well, a lot of things that don't work. It's like sometimes book circulation is a challenge. That is a big challenge. I don't know how it is in the public library, but book circulation for us is a big challenge because students, they get the books home and they never come back. And parents, if you have try to get them to pay for it, that's really a challenge. Sometimes then the payment follows them till they get to high school. So they take a book out in elementary school, it follows them all the way to high school, and they try all different kinds of ways to get it. And then the last thing is they don't receive their high school diploma until they pay the fine. So yeah, so it that's a big thing. So a lot of times I have to adjust. I only allow third, fourth, and fifth graders to take book home, and only ones who would like to. And I tell them all the rules that go along with the books. A lot of them and they won't. So, but I do a lot of reading in school. So they're allowed to read as many books when they come into the library, and we do a lot of reading in school. So that is a challenge, to get books in the hands of students, have them take it home, and have the experience of actually checking out a book, and then actually bringing it back on time without receiving any penalties or fees. That's the biggest challenge that I have. Thank you, Susan. Yeah, and that's if anything else, that was my presentation. Thank you so much for coming and supporting me, and thank you for all your kind words. Good night, everyone. I saw Karen. I think we. Thank you. Good night, Erica.